Thank you for joining me again. Um, this video is gonna be big, okay? We're covering some pretty big things in this video, and you may not agree with everything that I say, and you may not believe it, and that's okay. Just take what resonates with you and leave the rest. It's not vital that you believe every single word. Yeah, so let's just get into it, okay? So you might have heard before that time is an illusion. Okay, so in this dream, we experience time as linear. You know, one thing happens, then another thing happens, then another thing happens, and so on. You know, the future is ahead of us, the past is behind us, and we got the present now, and that's it. There's only one direction, from past to future. Okay. However, God doesn't experience time the way we do. We experience time linear so that we can actually act everything out and experience everything. If everything all happened at once, it would just be too quick. It would be over before we can, learn to forgive and learn to love. And, we need to experience it slowly. However, that's not the way it actually happened, or everything happens in reality. In reality, God saw this dream as just an instant. It's already happened, all of it, all our lifetimes. It's already happened, just like that. Okay, time, it all happened at once. Because outside of this dream, in the afterlife, time doesn't work the same way. Even people that have died for a little while and come back, they may have been dead only for a few minutes. But, a lot of them, people that have had near-death experiences, a lot of them feel like they were gone for hours, days, even weeks. So, and yet they come back and they're always so surprised. I was only dead for a few minutes. Time worked differently in the afterlife. Though usually with near-death experiences, they're still kind of in a realm of separation. They're not completely in reality yet, where time doesn't exist at all. Anyway, let's not get too much into that. The point is, we experience time as linear, but that's not really the truth. So what does that even mean? Okay, why is that important? It means that everything that will happen in our lives, and even in future lives, and even in our past lives, everything has actually already happened. Okay? It's already happened in an instant. The dream that the Son of God had all just happened in an instant. Okay? Because we're just experiencing time really slowly. But in reality, there is no time. So it all happened real quick. It's a really short dream, okay? But we experience it as very, very long, multiple lifetimes even. Okay, so why is that important? Why does that matter? We experience time as linear and slow, so that's all that matters, right? Well, actually, we can help change our thinking because of this. Because if it's already happened, it's like the script of our lives has already been written. Everything that's going to happen has already been determined. It's already been written. We're just following a script that's already happened. Okay. Now, that might start to feel a bit uncomfortable, but quite a few teachings actually teach this idea. And, I first heard of this from probably Robert Scheinfeld. But there's actually other teachers that I mention in teachings that I mention in my book that suggest that time is an illusion. Now, so what does all this mean? If the script is already written, can we deviate from the script? Can we choose to do things differently? Well, actually, now there's a lot of debate about this on the internet, and you may not agree with this what I'm about to say, and it's okay if you don't. So essentially, as far as our actions are concerned and what we say, We don't actually have free will. It's already been written. Okay. Don't worry, it's okay if you don't accept that. It's, you don't have to accept it, and you certainly don't have to take my word for it. I recommend doing more research, seeing what other spiritual teachers have to say about this, seeing what, scientific discoveries have found out about this. I don't know if you've ever seen Westworld, but the writers of that actually talked about, that they've discovered a lot of scientific evidence that, suggests that we don't have free will. And so there's this scene with one of the, I forget what they call it. They're not exactly robots, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that she's realizing that she's been programmed to do everything that she does. She has no free will. And she kind of short circuits because that's a bit of a scary thought. So I don't want you to short circuit, so it's okay if you don't believe it. But what's the point of even thinking about this? How is it helpful to think we don't have free will in our actions? Because it means that everything becomes a lot more forgivable. If we were meant to make the mistakes that we make, and we basically had no choice, we were just playing our role, then of course we can forgive it. If another person, even a person that seems to hurt us, was just playing their role, then of course we can forgive them. We're all like actors. We're just playing our role. But the good news is we do have free will in the way we think. And whether our thoughts follow love and forgiveness, or if they follow fear and judgment and guilt. Okay, that's where we have free will. And the way we think guides everything anyway, so it's the most important thing. So now, why does that matter? Choosing love over fear. Okay, because that actually determines what parts of the script we have to play out. Okay, so basically, the long version of the script, in the beginning of the script, it's written from a place of fear and guilt, okay? Because initially, the Son of God fell asleep feeling fearful and believed he actually caused separation, so he felt guilt. And so, we come and we feel a lot of fear and guilt, and we make a lot of mistakes. Okay. And, but the more we choose love, the more we choose forgiveness, the script gets happier and happier. More and more positive things happen. And so it starts very fearful and very negative, but then it gets happier and happier and happier, and more positive things happen. The world becomes more peaceful. People become more loving. And as we keep forgiving and keep loving and keep choosing unconditional love and keep giving our fearful thoughts and judgmental thoughts over to the Holy Spirit, we act from love. We act more compassionately. We act more kindly. The script gets better and better until ultimately we learn to forgive everything. We learn to love everyone, including ourselves, unconditionally, and we create the happy dream. We create heaven on earth. And that's how the script becomes. It becomes a script of just happiness, of pure joy, of pure love. And then ultimately, once we get to that, point of enlightenment, and think about the word enlightenment, to let the light in, to let the light of God's love in. Okay, we're ready to accept God's love completely because we have learned to love unconditionally. So we are ready to wake up from the dream and accept God's love completely. Okay, And that's when the Son of God will finally wake up and we will finally feel God's unconditional love for us and have the pure joy and happiness of that. And that's where we're going. We're all going to get there. We're all going to achieve enlightenment. Maybe it'll be in this lifetime. Maybe it'll be in a future lifetime. It's okay. But really the question is now, we're all going to get there. But how long do we want to wait to get there? How long do we want to experience the script as fearful, as difficult, as with attacks in it? How long do we want to experience it like this? It's actually up to us how long we act out the script as like the scenes of suffering, and how long before we move to the happy dream. It's completely up to us. We actually have a lot of power in our thoughts, okay? So every time we choose fear and judgment, every single time, you think your thoughts aren't harming anyone else. You think they don't have any real effects, but every time you judge, every time, you feel negative thoughts, unloving feelings and hold on to them and don't give them to the Holy Spirit. Don't ask the Holy Spirit to undo the effects of them. We're actually contributing to a very negative world, to a very fearful world. If you look at the world and the state it's in now and the things that are happening in our world, it's easy to say, well, they're doing that. They declared war. They attacked. That's them. They're causing those people to starve. They're doing it. Actually, we're all doing it. Every time we have a judgmental thought or a guilty thought or an unloving thought and we don't move on from it, we don't pass it, away to the Holy Spirit or to whoever you believe in, and we don't forgive and we don't choose love, we're contributing to that. Okay, now you don't need to feel guilty about that. We're going to give all that guilt and all past fear and guilt and judgment over to the Holy Spirit now, and we're going to choose forgiveness and we're going to choose love instead. Holy Spirit, help us forgive ourselves for having past negative thoughts and help us choose more wisely in the future and always come back to love and choose forgiveness so that we can create the happy dream here on earth. Okay? We're going to keep doing that for the rest of our lives. Now, why? Why does that have any effect on the actual dream? Isn't the Son of God dreaming? Why would our thoughts have any effect on his dream? We are the Son of God. Our minds are all within his mind. So our thoughts affect the Son of God's dream because our minds are in his mind. And our minds are all connected to each other and his. Therefore, it's our thoughts that affect the dream. Now, if we don't have any free will over our actions, how does it change anything? It's kind of like, imagine a movie. And now there's going to be a lot of suffering and a lot of really ugly scenes where people get attacked, where people are upset. But eventually it's going to get happy. And then it's going to be lots of joyful scenes where people are happy and celebrating, loving each other and all that. Now, we don't have to watch all the suffering scenes. We could skip the suffering scenes if we want to and go straight to the happy dream, or just at least get there faster. That's what we do every time we choose love and forgiveness. We skip the suffering because it's like we're pressing the button to skip scenes of suffering in our lives because we no longer need to learn that lesson. We've already forgiven. We've already chosen love. A example from my life that I've recognized that this has happened is, now I brought up managers in the past. I've had some difficult managers. And I realized it was a pattern. You know, I definitely had 3 difficult managers even in a row, even though I changed jobs, completely different jobs, completely different environments, completely different people. But it kept happening. And it was only till I finally forgave that it broke the pattern. And my next manager was very gentle and very kind. But I had to forgive first. That was something I had to do, and only that broke the pattern. Otherwise, you know, I might have gotten a different job instead with another harsh manager before finally getting a nicer manager. So, you know, I've experienced this. I know that forgiveness can break those patterns. And so you no longer have to continue playing out similar scenes of suffering because you've already learned the lesson. You've already forgiven. So that's how we affect the script. That's why our thoughts of love and forgiveness are so important, because it directly affects our experiences, and not just our experiences, everyone's experiences in the whole world, because all our minds are joined. Therefore, if I'm being more loving, it's going to affect other people being more loving, and it's going to create happier events throughout the script, throughout the dream, not just in my life. It has a ripple effect. Okay. Now, I wanted to say also about free will. You might be wondering, well, you know, if I don't have free will, what's the point? What's the point of even getting up in the morning? What's the point of living? What's the point, you know, why bother? Now, ask yourself something. Have you ever read a book? Have you ever watched a movie? Those were already written. So why bother? Why did you read that book? Why did you watch that movie? Why do you watch a TV show that's already written? Because it makes you feel things. That's what we want more than anything. We want to feel emotions. And this is something very close to what Robert Scheinfeld teaches. We want to feel. That's why you get up in the morning. That's why you play a role that's already been written, because only by playing it are you going to feel the emotions. And most importantly, only by playing the role that you've been given are you going to be able to feel the love and learn unconditional love. And only by forgiveness are you going to do that. And by actually playing out the role and going through the ups and downs of life are you going to actually do it. It's not really, the most important thing isn't about free will. It's about feeling. It's about the experience, not the decisions you make, but the experience of living the life, and the thoughts that come with it, and choosing love over fear. Okay, so there was a lot of big ideas there. Remember, take what resonates with you, leave what doesn't. And if you're unsure about things, you know, do more research and then decide how you feel about it. Okay, I hope that was interesting. And I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Be kind to yourself. I love you. Bye.